Just as I was about to put the final nail in the Mass Effect Andromeda coffin, new developments stopped me right in my tracks. As I'm sure you're well aware, the general consensus at this point is that Mass Effect Andromeda is pretty much dead. Nobody's really expecting additional content or DLC for this title that launched to commercial and critical failure, especially after reports from Kotaku that Bioware Montreal, the developers of Mass Effect Andromeda, had been downsized and that the Mass Effect series had been put on hold. There's also the fact that EA didn't say peep about Mass Effect Andromeda at E3 2017, possibly suggesting that they're just trying to bury the game under the rug and pretend like it never happened. Well, just recently, EA and Bioware have spoken out about Andromeda DLC, but not in the way you might expect. So here's what happened. 2 days ago, on June 28th, 2017, a conglomerate going by the name of Sinclair Networks, an alleged developer support company based in Vienna, Austria, to whom Bioware allegedly outsourced some of their work on Andromeda, published a Facebook post allegedly confirming the cancellation of story DLCs for Mass Effect Andromeda. Here's what their Facebook post said. This news saddens us to say, but it was made official after a meeting this week that there will be no story DLC for Mass Effect Andromeda from us. Due to issues in initial production, heavy critique, significant delays in other projects, staff allocation, and reductions in Montreal, it was decided to shelve the franchise for the time being, and all resources and outsourcing are being focused to the 2018 release of Anthem. For the moment, the Mass Effect series will be on ice until Bioware can decide which direction the franchise will go. The only content that will be produced will be the recurring Apex missions, as well as patches as and when needed. Shortly after this was posted, a few people got wind of this and they spread the word around forums and other parts of the internet. Now, here's the problem. This Sinclair Networks company, it's fake. It doesn't exist. After doing some investigating, it was found that there is no business called Sinclair Networks listed anywhere in Vienna, Austria. Once people found out that this whole thing was a hoax, the Sinclair Networks Facebook page deleted the Facebook post, and now you can't even access their Facebook page. So yeah, it's pretty clear at this point that this whole Sinclair Networks fiasco was a complete fabrication. Now, it seems as though word of this hoax spread around enough to reach some Bioware employees as well as EA. And it seems as though this whole ordeal was widely talked about enough that they felt the need to make some kind of statement. A day after Sinclair Networks published their Facebook post, on June 29th, 2017, Michael Gamble, producer of Mass Effect, took to Twitter to state plain and simply, never heard of Sinclair Networks, ever. Another producer of Mass Effect, Fernando Mello, had this to say, "While we can't talk about future yet, I can definitely say we build our own DLC/patches for our games and don't hire fake companies to do so." Now, Fernando's quote is a little more interesting. Alongside confirming that this Sinclair Networks company is fake and that their post was a hoax, he vaguely mentions how he can't talk about the future yet and clarifies that Bioware builds their own DLC and patches in-house. Keep in mind that the assumption right now is that plans for Andromeda DLC went to shit following Andromeda's disastrous launch and Bioware Montreal's downsizing. So the fact that he even uses words like future and DLC at all in his statement, even if vaguely, is somewhat surprising to me. This might suggest that there is some kind of future for Andromeda DLC to talk about down the line. After both Michael Gamble and Fernando Mello said their piece on Twitter, an EA representative provided the following statement to website PC Gamer. "We have never worked with Sinclair Networks, and they had nothing to do with the development of Mass Effect Andromeda. Beyond that, we don't have any news to share at this time regarding DLC." Once again, while the statement is very clear about the fact that Bioware never worked with any company called Sinclair Networks, it's very vague about plans for Andromeda DLC. While the statement doesn't at any point confirm the existence of Andromeda DLC, it doesn't flat out deny it either, and almost puts the possibility in a positive light. Pay attention to the wording. We don't have any news to share at this time regarding DLC. It's like he's suggesting that we can expect some news about Andromeda DLC sometime in the future. Could the vagueness about Andromeda DLC in their statements suggest that nothing is quite written in stone yet? Perhaps there are discussions happening behind the scenes about the possibility of bringing additional content to Andromeda in hopes to fix some of the game's shortcomings. But if I were you, I wouldn't get my hopes too high up. It's just as possible that they're waiting for the right time before they officially announce that Andromeda won't be getting any additional content. Maybe now is not the time to present this kind of news, especially considering that Anthem was just recently announced. It could be that they want all the attention to be focused on Bioware Edmonton's new IP rather than the whole Andromeda fiasco, so they're just biding their time for now. Personally speaking, I don't see how Andromeda DLC is possible after Bioware Montreal was downsized and after reports that the Mass Effect series has been put on hold. Not to mention that Andromeda DLC doesn't make financial sense at this point, especially after how Andromeda was received both critically and commercially. And you know how much EA loves their money. EA doesn't seem like the kind of company who would want to take risks for our sakes, for the sake of the fans, and to take responsibility for their mistakes. All they care about is money. But hey, you never know, there might be a small ray of hope in that both EA and Bioware haven't outright officially said no yet. And even after the Sinclair Networks hoax forced their hand to make some kind of statement, they remained vague about the possibility of Andromeda DLC. They used statements like, "We can't talk about the future yet," and "we don't have any news to share at this time regarding DLC." I personally won't hold my breath though. All things considered, the downsizing of Bioware Montreal, Mass Effect being put on hold, Andromeda's underwhelming sales and reception, and knowing EA, chances of Andromeda receiving additional content or DLC just seems very slim from my point of view. And even if there were plans for Andromeda DLC, it would have to be one hell of an awesome DLC for it to regain the trust of all those who bought Andromeda at launch and were disappointed with it. But until we get an official statement on the matter, until we get an official yes or no, nothing's written in stone, only time will tell. Let us know in the comments below what you think that the statements provided by BioWare and EA could mean for the possibility of Andromeda DLC. Also, if you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon so we can remain independent from third-party sponsorship and corporate interference. And to be further updated on all things BioWare, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.